Hey there, it's another beautiful day. Let's watch some stuff. Some people do stupid things. Don't do stupid things. You are about to hear my opinion. Do your own research.
This is Betelgeuse, the star that we can see, but it does not exist. Betelgeuse is one of the most recognizable stars, easily visible without a telescope, and people have watched it for centuries. So, why the claim it doesn't exist? This idea comes from speculation it might have already exploded as a supernova. Here's the key. Light takes time to travel across space. Betelgeuse is about 700 light years away, meaning the light we see tonight actually left that star 700 years ago. It could have exploded centuries ago, and we simply wouldn't know yet. Astronomers constantly monitor Betelgeuse, tracking its brightness and pulsations for signs of instability. Predicting the exact timing is difficult. It could be tomorrow or maybe not for another 100,000 years. So, in a way, the star we observe might be a ghost, gone, but its light still reaching us across that vast distance.
My cousin Erin, thank you so much by the way, sent me some information the other day about how astronomers are observing Betelgeuse dimming and then getting brighter and then dimming and then getting brighter, but it's over the course of several years. So they're speculating that it might go supernova. But since it's hundreds of years for that light to get from there to us, it may have already happened.
This is so bizarre, I had to investigate its accuracy. The Hoover Dam was constructed between 1931 and 1935. However, the initial surveying took place in 1921. That's when, on December 20th, a surveying crew was caught in a flash flood. One surveyor, John George Tierney, or JG for short, drowned, marking the second casualty related to the construction of the dam. When construction began, JG's son, Patrick Tierney, joined the crew. There were 111 deaths reported as associated with the construction of the dam up to December 20th, 1935, when construction was almost complete. On that date, exactly 13 years after JG's death, his son Patrick fell 320 feet from an intake tower and died. His was the last death associated with the construction of Hoover Dam. Now that's a weird fact.
To the day. How crazy is that? My father-in-law's father worked on the dam, and he was actually big in the union movement, and he did a lot of political cartoons and was one of the first ones arrested when they were like, no, we're not going to work unless you change conditions. Just a little piece of Mrs. Collins' history.
Most insane coincidence in history. Abraham Lincoln was elected to Congress in 1846. John F. Kennedy was elected to Congress in 1946. Abraham Lincoln was elected president in 1860. John F. Kennedy was elected president in 1960. Both were particularly concerned with civil rights. Both wives lost a child while living in the White House. Both presidents were shot on a Friday. Both presidents were shot in the head. Lincoln's secretary was named Kennedy. Kennedy's secretary was named Lincoln. Both were assassinated by Southerners. Both were succeeded by Southerners named Johnson. Andrew Johnson, who succeeded Lincoln, was born in 1808. Lyndon Johnson, who succeeded Kennedy, born in 1908. John Wilkes Booth, who assassinated Lincoln, was born in 1839. Lee Harvey Oswald, who assassinated Kennedy, born in 1939. Both assassins were known by their three names, both names composed of 15 letters. Lincoln was shot at the theater named Ford. Kennedy was shot in a car called Lincoln, made by Ford. Both and Oswald were assassinated before their trials. And here's the kicker: a week before Lincoln was shot, he was in Monroe, Maryland. A week before Kennedy was shot, he was with Marilyn Monroe. And Lincoln was shot in a theater, and the assassin ran to a warehouse. Kennedy was shot from a warehouse, and the assassin ran to a theater.
There are no coincidences. I didn't take the time to look all of those facts up. I know that I recall some of them being presented as true. Some of them I just don't know. But if those are true, how freaking crazy is that?
What is going on in the skies over El Paso, Texas? It seems like every day there's a brand new sighting of something that doesn't belong in the nighttime sky. A woman and her son were out in their backyard when they heard something flying over that did not sound or look like a plane. She took her phone and quickly recorded. Take a look at this video. Look at this.
What the f? Look at that, holy shit!
What is that? What is this? Watch.
Mom! Shh! Dude, what the f is that?
Excuse the language, but I don't blame them. What the heck was that? It seems like every day we're starting to see different unidentified flying objects over major cities in the US and around the world. What are your thoughts on what the heck that was?
It was probably a surveillance drone being launched into our atmosphere to watch that lady for filming it. It's probably just a satellite launch. Real quick, while I've got your attention, if you're having a good time, won't you please hit that like button and consider subscribing?
Immediately found that this was a doorway. This was not an isolation tank. That's a cover story. It is really a doorway into the universe. It allows one to escape one's body. One's soul can leave, and one can clean one's karma from one's soul and become pure spirit.
Long flotation sessions would gradually give way to waking dreams and hallucinations. Lilly began to think of them as conferences, where he would meet with 3 entities he would come to know as the Earth Coincidence Control Office, or ECHO for short. Although terrifying at first, over his years in sensory deprivation, Lilly understood ECHO as a localized branch of a much larger cosmic institution. They were his guides responsible for orchestrating what Lilly called the long-term coincidences of his life, fatefully steering him in specific directions.
But it means to me the Earth Coincidence Control Office, one of God's field offices. And ECHO runs our lives, though we won't admit it.
In the first ECHO conference in 1958, that the entities convinced Lilly to abandon the results-oriented constraints of government-funded research, divorce his spouse, and throw himself headlong into his dolphin studies. The United States Intelligence Service wished for him to continue his neural mapping research. They were equally interested in his experiments in sensory deprivation and to what extent it might make a subject more suggestible to outside influence. But Lilly was on the cusp of discovering non-human intelligence, and he would see it through, even if it meant doing so on his own. Although Lilly entertained the idea that ECHO was merely a manifestation of what he unconsciously wanted for himself, and that nothing supernatural was occurring in the isolation tank, the results were the same. Lilly filed for divorce, sold much of his property, and purchased land on St. Thomas Island. During his initial years on St. Thomas, using an underwater microphone called a hydrophone, Dr. Lilly attempted to catalog the various whistles, clicks, and screeches the creatures emitted to gather evidence for the presence of Delphinese. Lilly found they had a vocal emitter on either side of their nose, and were capable of carrying on a clicking conversation with their right and a whistle conversation with their left, each completely independently of the other. The shortest and seemingly easiest path to interspecies communication was to teach the dolphins English. So in simple curiosity and a love for dolphins brought Margaret Howe to Lilly's laboratory in early 1964, where, despite having no formal scientific background, she'd volunteered her help however she could be of service. Lilly saw this as a cosmic coincidence orchestrated by ECHO. Dr. Lilly had meanwhile become preoccupied with the recesses of his own consciousness, going longer and longer in sensory deprivation. Referring to his own mind, Lilly wrote, "It seems to contain or be part of some large inner universes beyond my present understanding." Lilly began to believe the dolphins were attempting to telepathically communicate with him.
They programmed the trips, as I found out later, and took me out into the universe in a very expanded way.
They?
The dolphins.
Really?
The 3 dolphins, yes.
Are the second most intelligent species on this planet, second only to humans. And maybe the dolphins were just messing with them. I don't know. I know that we're not allowed to mess with dolphins in the wild, right? Perhaps there is something that was found of this particular research that leads us to believe that dolphins are more advanced than we think. Maybe they're aliens. Maybe not. I don't know. But I know for sure that if the dolphins leave, something bad's going to happen. So long, and thanks for all the fish.
Have you ever heard of the Pope who gave birth during a public procession?
It sounds like fiction, but some say it really happened. Her name was Pope Joan, a woman who disguised herself as a man and rose through the Catholic Church during the 9th century. She was brilliant. She studied in Athens, mastered theology, and took the name John Anglicus. But nobody knew she was a woman. Her wisdom earned her a place in Rome. People loved her, and soon she was elected Pope. But during a public procession, something unimaginable happened. She went into labor, right in front of the crowd. The secret was out. The Pope was a woman. The church, ashamed, reportedly erased all trace of her, even banned popes from walking that same road ever again. So is Pope Joan real, or just a medieval legend meant to warn others? What do you think? Real or myth?
My husband and I were watching this video on YouTube the other night, and they were talking about this and how there was this chair that was created to like make sure the Pope was a dude. And there's a hole in the chair where the Pope would put his manhood through, and then somebody would reach under there very discreetly and just make sure that he had the right parts. I don't know if that's actually true, but I thought that was pretty interesting.
You need to watch this if you love a good mystery. Today we're diving into the eerie story of the Mary Celeste. Picture this. It's 1872. The Mary Celeste is found drifting in the Atlantic Ocean. No crew, no signs of struggle, just empty. What happened? The ship was in perfect condition. Food and personal belongings untouched. But the lifeboat was gone. Creepy, right? Some think it was pirates, others say sea monsters. But there's no evidence. One theory, a sudden storm or a water spout frightened the crew. They abandoned ship, only to be lost at sea. And get this, the ship's cargo of alcohol. It was still there. So why would they leave? The mystery of the Mary Celeste remains unsolved to this day. A ghost ship forever drifting in the fog of unanswered question. What do you think happened? Drop your theories in the comments. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more mysterious tales. Until next time, keep wondering.
Yeah, I know we've talked about this before, but about a month ago, all these videos start popping up that they have solved the mystery of the Mary Celeste. I mean, there's been speculation for all along, but I think it's still speculation, except one of the videos that I saw, I can't find it. If I could, I will link it. If I can find it, I'm going to link it in the description. So if there's a link in the description, it's that video that I found about them finding the lifeboat. Someone found the lifeboat, supposedly. But apparently they believe that the fumes from the alcohol had, vaporized enough and something ignited them that they didn't actually catch fire. They just went, and it was like percussion. And it scared everybody. So they got into the lifeboat and then slowly watched the Mary Celeste drift away and not explode. And then they perished, which is sad. But yeah. Apparently a mystery solved?
That might be partially true. Prices have been out of reach for the average person. We lack the infrastructure, and electric cars are just too feminine. Wait, what? Yeah, that was one of their problems for success back in the early 1900s. But let's go through some history. Sometime in 1830 Scotland, a guy named Robert Anderson built a battery-operated carriage. But the batteries weren't rechargeable. That could be a problem. But how about that Electrobat from Philadelphia? Car and Driver says Henry G. Morris adapted technology from battery electric streetcars and got a patent in 1894. Now, these cars were like a trolley car with steel tires and 1,600 pounds of batteries. Increíble. Enter the 20th century, and President William McKinley is shot. He dies some days later, but he's brought to the hospital in an electric-powered ambulance. The first 20 years of the 20th century, steam-powered and electric cars actually ruled the automobile market. But gasoline-powered cars started to win the race in technology, and prices were definitely quite a bit lower than those electric cars. But electric cars did very well in the city because of their silent operation, their lack of smells and emissions from burning fossil fuels, and they were easy to start. See, the electric starter hadn't been invented yet for the gasoline engine. But in 1912, that was one of the turning points that allowed gasoline cars to start to accelerate in the market. In 1908, Henry Ford's Model T cost $850, and by 1923, that price had gone down to under $300. If you had a car in the early 20th century, you were definitely considered rich. A gasoline-powered car cost about twice the annual salary of the average worker, and electric cars were about 50% more than that. In the first decade of the 1900s, those cars could go about 50 miles, and in the 1910s, that was extended to about 100 miles. But it was roughly an 8-hour charging cycle. But in those early years, you could flip a switch to start an electric car, where a gasoline car, you couldn't. So the electric car market focused on rich women, and manly men didn't want to be driving those cars. Of course, there's some speculation that this guy, John D. Rockefeller from Standard Oil, basically killed the electric car, but there doesn't seem to be a ton of evidence of that. And remember, Henry Ford was friends with Thomas Edison, who both owned electric cars themselves, the Detroit Electric. And remember, Ford introduced the assembly line, which is the reason that those cars went down to under $300 in the 1920s. But look at how they marketed these cars to women. Ladies, be patriotic. Drive your own Detroit Electric. But now men dominate the EV market.
All right, sound off. How many of you are getting in the I didn't know that boat with me? Because I didn't know that. That's fantastic. We had electric cars over 100 years ago. I didn't know.
Did the Soviet Union send cosmonauts into space and cover up their before Yuri Gagarin officially became the first man in space in 1961, some believe others went before him and never returned. The theory comes from secret radio transmissions intercepted by two Italian brothers. They claim to have recorded dying cosmonauts lost in space. One chilling recording captures a woman pleading for help, saying, "I'm hot, I'm burning. Tell the world what happened." Even photos from early Soviet space programs show erased faces, cosmonauts, who were written out of history. Was this all Cold War propaganda? Or did Russia really sacrifice astronauts to beat the US to space?
Oh, absolutely. I totally think that it's highly possible that they probably sent some stuff up that didn't make it back with people inside of it. I mean, there's probably tests that we don't know about where things have gone up and people didn't make it back, and they just kind of quietly were like, sweep that under the rug. No, it didn't happen.
So this is pretty insane. A former presidential advisor by the name of Harold Bernard Malgren, who unfortunately passed away on February 13th of 2025, who was also a prominent American scholar, diplomat, and senior advisor to US presidents such as John F. Kennedy, Lyndon Johnson, Richard Nixon, Gerald Ford, as well as US senators, has come out to state that he himself has held UAP material after a UAP was shot down. He's also claimed that he has seen first-hand videos of a surviving extraterrestrial from said downed UFO, and also another video from another downed UFO which is believed to be a part of the Roswell incident of 1964. But he has also, not only that, he's also come out and stated that John F. Kennedy, before his inauguration, was actually briefed on UAP information, and he was willing to share what he knew with the Soviet Union, which was one of the reasons why he was assassinated.
All right, so check out where my conspiracy brain is going to go with this. Perhaps this guy was actually in contact with these crafts and these beings. Maybe he actually did have like first-hand account of this, because we see all of these people who are like whistleblowers, right? And they're telling their stories of how they saw these crafts and all this stuff, but they're okay. They're fine. They're doing good. They've been telling their stories for years. What if they actually didn't have anything to do with anything because they're still, kicking about? But this fella like really did. And that's why he's, got his bucket kicked. I don't know. It's just a theory.
At Roswell, 2 UFO crashes at Roswell on July the 4th, 1947. One of the machines was sufficiently intact to be recovered, and they began back engineering that. Before long, they moved the operation to Nevada. And the president then was Eisenhower, and he wanted to know what they were doing out there, and they wouldn't tell him. So he threatened to send in the First Army. from Colorado. They capitulated and allowed him to send 4 trusted members of the CIA to visit Colorado and see what was going on. Well, what was going on was exactly what they really expected, and that is the back engineering of one of the vehicles from the Roswell area. I don't think there's been a president since, well, actually Truman, who has really been in the loop totally. President Eisenhower vented his frustration in his final speech to the American people at the time he was retiring from public life. He said, "Beware of the military-industrial complex." And the problem is we have paid no attention to him. An eyewitness who had worked in the company of President Eisenhower said what he was really concerned about was that the ET file had fallen into the wrong hands.
I think the reason why presidents aren't fully in the loop is plausible deniability. If they're not told about it, then maybe it doesn't exist and they can continue, funneling money into these special projects to back engineer this UFO alien technology, which I totally believe is happening. I believe that aliens have come here from other planets or maybe inside of our own planet and we're trying to tinker with their stuff to make new stuff. And yeah, if the president doesn't know about it, he didn't lie.
Stalin's sinister alien hoax uncovered. Fake alien crash, surgically altered humans, and Cold War psychological warfare. What's the truth behind Roswell? In 1947, did a Soviet-operated drone crash in Roswell, loaded with human aliens? The Roswell Army Airfield claimed a flying disc, but quickly retracted it. Rumors of altered humans with alien features circulated. Some say these aliens were sent to Area 51, deepening the mystery. But here's the twist. Many argue it's all a fiction, a Cold War paranoia game. Did Stalin really try to unnerve America with an alien hoax?
No, I actually really like this theory. I know it's contradictory to my alien brain thoughts, but I'm okay with contradicting thoughts because that happens sometimes. Now, what if they actually did? Because they were sending the video of that woman, remember, manipulating things with their mind, and then we're like, hey, we gotta do that. And then they start doing this other thing, and then we're like, hey, we gotta do that. So why wouldn't they send over a funky aircraft that's like supposed to crash here to distract us, to make us think, oh my goodness, it's aliens, and then we're like distracted on that, or maybe we're like trying to reverse engineer their stuff and a bunch of people just think it's aliens. I mean, I still think that aliens did come from outer space, but there is a possibility that they were like, hey, let's give them something else to do.
False vacuum decay is a hypothetical end to the universe as we know it. It proposes that our universe is in a stable state, but not the most stable it could be. We could stay in this false vacuum state for an extremely long time, but eventually this false vacuum will decay and become the true vacuum state. This would cause the universe as we know it, and all of the laws of nature and physics, to change, and the universe to alter into a new universe. Again, with this hypothetical end to the universe does not truly end, but just changes states. It gives me comfort knowing that if this is the ultimate end to the universe, there will at least be something else that exists after our universe. Perhaps if our species survives till this time, we may discover a way to stabilize this universe without destroying it, or we may discover a way to transfer ourselves over to the new universe.
Or we can realize that if something is going to happen, the universe is going to implode on itself, or the sun's going to go supernova. There's nothing that we can do about it. All we can do is enjoy here and now. So do that here and now. That's what matters. On that note, calling it for today. Thank you so much for sharing your time with me. If you haven't already, please hit that like button and consider subscribing. Then come on back, because we're going to watch some new stuff. I'll say different things, and I'm going to get the hair out of my mouth. And it's going to be fantastic. Until then, have a wonderful day.